Welcome to Smart Branding, a podcast dedicated to branding, naming, and domain names. I'm Tatiana Bonneau, and with my guests, we try to help you create and grow strong, memorable, and meaningful brands online. I believe time is one of our most precious assets, and so I want to thank you in advance if you decide to spend the next 30 minutes with us. I promise to do my best to make those worth it. Let's go. So today our guest is Gideon Tomoloju, founder of Pixxis, a brand and content management agency for entrepreneurs with a global vision. Hi, and thank you for making the time.
Hi, Tatiana. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Wonderful. Let's start with a little bit of a background. Give me a short introduction of yourself and how was your journey? How has your journey led you to Pixxis?
Oh, okay. Hi, guys. So my name is Gideon, like Tatiana said, and I'm a strategist and a brand designer based in Lagos, Nigeria. I basically help ambitious businesses make sales through effective strategy and design. And I started out in university. I studied architecture in school. And this was where we had to learn more about design, learning more about the users, creating spaces that work. And also, in architecture design, right, any omission in your design process could cost lives. It could be behind bars for mistakes in your design. You have to be cautious of every design decision we made. And after school, I actually won an award in brand design. And I felt, okay, maybe I could give this a try. So I sort of dropped architecture ever since a few years ago. And since then, I've not looked back, right? It's been a hell of a journey, to be honest. And lots of learning, lots of experimenting, lots of trying out new things with different kind of clients. So after school, I actually got a job as a founding designer at a betting company here in Nigeria. So I was actually tasked with working on their branding, working on their marketing and their messaging. And after this, right, I decided that, okay, maybe it's time for me to probably jump ship and start my own business. So it was a very bold move. My family was against it, actually. In fact, they actually called me 30 minutes call just to tell me that you've made the wrong decision. They were telling me about, no, this is wrong and everything, right? But I think I'm actually happy and glad that I took that very bold step, because that what has really shaped me into being resilient, right? And also, helping people, craft their messaging and also tell their stories through visuals and design.
And you said you initially started with architecture and that sort of led you. What would you say there are parts of what you did with architecture that are useful to you today in working with brands?
Yeah, very, very useful. So I would say something about architecture being a very broad course, right? Because you learn so many things. You learn about engineering, you learn more about the users, you learn more about the environmental design. And all of this actually transcends into what I currently do today. So graphic design / brand design, basically, because I think brand design, right, it's all about the users, right? It's all about the brands, how they interact with their users, right? And coming from an architectural background, I sort of have understanding of how users behave, how users interact with spaces, with colors, with textures, everything. So all of this actually shaped what I currently do today.
I think that's fascinating because you said, rightly, as you mentioned at the beginning, with architecture, it's such a responsible thing that, literally building stuff that can fall on somebody's head. So it's user experience taken to the extreme. But in a way that, because it's so important and such a high risk, people don't forget when they're building that it's not just about something beautiful, but it also has to be functioning. It also has to be safe, etc., which is something I feel entrepreneurs can miss when it comes to their brands, because obviously the consequences are not, it can kill the brand, but it's not, luckily, it's not exactly. So, but yeah, because it is this way, I feel that a lot of entrepreneurs are missing things. And like in my case, where I work with premium names, I would speak a lot to people who go, oh, it's it's a nice to have. It's not important, that domain name. It's not important for us. We are okay with whatever name. And I'm always like, yeah, but it's not about you. It's not about you being okay. It's about your clients. And I'm sure like you must have a similar experience with your clients as well.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, it's if we can summarize that a bit as a takeaway for our audience, it's it's important to always remember that when you're building a brand, when you're building a website, whatever it is, your product or service, the focus has to always be what is better, what is the best that you can do for your audience.
Yeah, true. Interesting. Yeah.
And I noticed on your website, and that probably comes from your architectural background, you talk a lot about strategy. Tell me more, what is brand strategy and how or why do you see it's needed?
All right. So I was going to actually share a slide, just share a slide about my work, if that would be possible. Can I do that?
Let me see. Well, it's going to be a podcast, so unless I include the slide afterwards as something people can view as they listen to the podcast.
Okay, if it's a podcast, we can probably go on. That's fine.
Yeah.
I can just maybe just go through the slide as I'm talking.
Go ahead.
Fine. All right. So yeah, interesting question, Tiana. And sorry, let me start again. So interesting question, Tatiana. Yeah, brand strategy. Before we actually go into brand strategy, I'd like to talk more about what brand and branding is, right? So basically, according to Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff Bezos says what people say about you or your business when you're not in the room is what you call a brand, right? So when I also added you as an entity, because you as an entity, you're also a brand, a personal brand, right? Where you go to, what you say, what you put on social media, what you interact with, these are ways people perceive you. And branding in its own is going to be that conscious effort of trying to let people or shape how people think about you and your business, right? And brand strategy basically is in very simple terms, right? Because it can get very broad at times. It's basically figuring out what the business goals are and how to get there in very, very basic terms, right? And strategy in its own could be in different use cases. So maybe you want to raise awareness about your brand. You also want to launch a new business, or you want to launch a new product, or you actually want to work on a product renewal. So even what product renewal is, I think this applies more to FMCGs, so fast-moving consumer goods, who work with physical products, shelf presence and everything. So all of these are actually very key in planning out where we are and where we need to be as a brand.
No, but as you were talking, I'm thinking about, does that apply to everyone? Does every brand has to have a strategy?
Yes, actually, they do. As long as you have a goal in mind, you need to have a strategy. I mean, you really can't just say, okay, I need to make sales, right? And you don't even know the roadmap. So strategy helps us with the roadmap, how we intend to achieve these goals.
And how do you help your clients do that?
Okay, so I start with a discovery call. So it's a very simple 1 hour discovery call where I tend to ask them questions. So in therapy, right? If you go meet a therapist, right? He or she asks you questions about what's going on with you. They try to get to the root causes of what's going on with you. So we basically we have like a question template that we use for brands, right? And also follow the 7 powerful coaching questions by Michael Bonge, talking about, okay, I can ask you right now what's on your mind, right? And then I ask you what else. So the follow-up question there is, I know that something's on your mind, but something that could also be missing, right? So I tend to ask you again, okay, what else, right? And then what's the real challenge here? You could also say several things that's going on with your business, but you're not actually saying the challenge, right? What keeps you up at night? What does it make you sleep? What does it make you comfortable about your business? So we ask so many questions that helps us to understand the root causes. And strategy works well when the founders themselves know more about their business. So just like how in therapy also, right? The therapist doesn't exactly propose solutions for you. They make you clearly think about solutions yourself. So they ask you questions and you realize that, okay, maybe this is what I could do next for myself or my business. These are like ways we help with strategy and how we get to the root causes of strategy. And then we now try to work on, we have like a workshop, a 2-day workshop where we take them through some slides, asking them more questions about their business, about their audience. And I think most times, right, it's been like what our customers have said is they actually felt like they didn't know their business before now, and it made them understand more about their business and what to do. Like it feels like they came here with a whole bunch of thoughts and then they leave with clarity because they know what to do next and they know you have to prioritize, because there can be so many things to do, right? But you have to also prioritize what you need to do before this,
Yeah. So you help people get clarity about their business. And then once they have that direction, then they can build that strategy and line up those steps of how to get there.
Yes, exactly.
And who do you work with? What type of size, for example, a business has to be able to work with you, location, etc.? Who do you work with?
Okay, so I basically work with small to medium to large size corporations. I think starting out, right, it was quite hard working with small businesses because like they're a very small team, so they really don't have the much time to execute strategy, jump onto meetings because this once the CEO is like the financial guy, is the HR, is the so like lots of things. Tend to work with medium to large scale corporations now. I actually have a client now. I would say I would describe it as a medium size, right? And it's quite nice because these guys they're like 9 countries in Africa, and we're helping them to align their messaging and visuals across these countries. And it's been, I would say, tasking because trying to understand okay, right now the company is a French company, so I don't even speak French, but I'm talking to French people, understanding how they react to several stimuli, how they perceive the brand currently, understanding where the brand needs to be and how we can bridge that gap. It's actually quite tasking, but also very fulfilling for both the clients and my team too.
I can imagine. That was going to be one of my questions, and we kind of jump to it now because you sort of touched on that. I speak with entrepreneurs from like all over the world, and I'm always like, when somebody is not in Europe or America, I always ask them, how do you find it working from, in your case, you're in Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
How do you, I'm sure there's some challenges, but there's also some upsides to that. How does it work for you? I was just talking about like challenges working from Nigeria.
Yeah. So I would say one of the challenges working from Nigeria would be internet issues. So funny enough, there was a time I got into a meeting and the client was like, Gideon, hope your internet is good today. And I'm like, well, I think this, right? Like the thing is, things get to you, right? But you don't have to let them get to you. And we also have like really bad infrastructure in Nigeria. So it's sort of affects, the work you do. But I've sort of created like this internal facilities for myself, to get myself good internet, get myself, stable electricity and everything I need at work to work efficiently. So yeah, some things will get to you, but you just have to fight back, don't let it get to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm in France and I don't have good internet here in the countryside. So, it's not, it happens. It happens everywhere, which is crazy. You would have thought by, like 2022, 23 soon.
Exactly.
We were supposed to have like flying cars and everything. We can't even build the internet.
Yeah, we also thought the same thing too.
Yeah, craziness. All right. So what would be the process? Where can people reach you if somebody feels like you can help them with their branding?
All right. So you can reach me via my website. So if you open pixxisagency.com, you definitely see a call to action there saying book a call. It's orange, it's big. You can't actually miss it. So you can always book a call with me. So this call could just be like a very simple call, just to even know if you need strategy at this point or you need something else. If you're quite unsure about what you need as a brand, or what the next step is going to be as a brand, you can always book a call, and then I'll always be there to speak to you and help the way I can.
Last thing, that was going to be my last question, but you mentioned it and kind of reminded me I missed that one. You said people can reach you on pixxisagency.com.
Yeah.
And I deal with domain names, so I can help myself. What do you feel is you went for a .com extension, for example, which is a global one. You didn't go for some local domain extension. What is your experience and what are your tips for brands when it comes to domain names?
Okay, so I will talk about my experience with Pixxis. So when I started Pixxis, I didn't want it to be an agency per se, because I didn't like the word agency, because I felt like agencies were just there to just probably, take people's money, do stuff. But I wanted it to be more like a personalized kind of design consultancy for people. And then my biggest issue was finding the right domain name. So I tried checking out Pixxis.com. It was actually not available. And I didn't want to go with domain names like .ai, .io, because I felt, why would I do that? Because, I think .io goes more with techie brands or tech brands, and .ai so feels kind of artificial intelligence kind of domain, right? And also, I think the other issue I had with all domains was because sometimes if I paste my domain name on a chat box, maybe on WhatsApp or any other chat box, it doesn't come out as a link. It comes out as a regular text. So that's like my biggest issue with those domain names. Yeah, so I just said, okay, I think for now, at least for the first 2 years, let me go with agency. When I build that brand name, I could probably maybe buy Pixxis.com or something else, So that was like my biggest issue. And I think for my clients, right, I'm always going to advise them to go with something simple for now. Just like I said, right, once you get your foot in the door, you can definitely change your brand name. I think one of my clients actually does the .co. And I actually try to understand from the user point of view, because I think most people in Nigeria don't really understand or know that .co could also be an extension, right? So I always say, maybe don't try .co for now until the people around you or until your target audience understand, okay, .co could be an extension, right? So .com feels right, .ai, yeah, maybe, maybe .fr, like you're in France, right? So .fr is .france. So people understand that that's a domain name, but people in Nigeria are like, okay, what's that? You understand? So yeah, it's always, it always goes back down to the users or your context where you are as a brand.
Exactly. And goes back to what we were saying earlier about the brand. And I think that kind of as a rule applies to just about anything you do in business. It has to be with your customer in mind. And like you say, there are cases where a global extension can be perfectly fine. And there are other cases where you would be, losing customers or confusing your customers. So it really depends on the business. And what you mentioned with your particular case with Pixxis agency, that is something that I see very, very often, where entrepreneurs do exactly what you do. Like they like their name, they add a word, and later on, as they expand, they can then secure the shorter, what we call exact brand match version, which is, I think you're doing absolutely the right thing in that case, not compromising on your name. And as you grow, you can drop the agency part.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's been a pleasure. Thank you for making the time. And I'm sure our listeners will find some useful information in that and can reach out to you if they need some help with building their brand strategy.
All right. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me also.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Smart Branding Podcast. Feel free to visit smartbranding.com for more information and reach out if you have any suggestions, questions, ideas, or just want to learn more about how a good domain name strategy can help you build a strong and successful brand. See you next time.